For us here at Sunmarke, purpose and well-being are everything. Our children cannot be successful unless they are safe and secure and happy. And I see Naomi's nodding along there because she agrees. And positive education is at the very heart of everything that we do. We're so lucky to have a really large, very experienced and dedicated inclusion and well-being team within the school. And we really want to really forge those strong partnership bonds with you as parents, because together, if we're giving a consistent message, then our children will thrive and will flourish. So this is the first in a series of workshops that we have planned throughout the year. And this one, I think, in particular, is so important. School readiness. We've been in school, we're in our third week now, and perhaps the initial excitement has worn off a little bit, and you and the children are getting used to the normal routines and ways of working. And some of the anxieties might have started to creep in. So I'm really sure that by the end of today's session, you will have a lot of concrete ideas to help support you and your children in this journey of education. There will be plenty of time for questions at the end, but please, if there's something that is burning and you want to ask during the session, please do feel free to just raise your hand. That's not a problem at all. You're very welcome, guys. Thank you for coming. I'm going to hand over now to the team. Thank you so much, everybody.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Miss Kay, and I'm the primary school counsellor. I'd like to talk to you a little bit this morning about school drop-offs, which can be really difficult for children, and what might be going on for children in these moments, and how you as parents can help. So transitions can be really challenging for children because they're going from the safety of what they know into a new situation, and there can be many unknowns for them in that new situation. So there's lots of space for them to have fear and worries about coming into school. And as adults, we have a lot of experience in different situations to help us feel confident going into new situations. But children don't have this breadth of experience just yet, so their young minds might imagine the worst case scenarios happening when they have to do something new. Ways that we can help them is making the unknown more known for them. So what you could do is talk through with them the morning routine the night before, and make the routine as predictable and as consistent as possible. And this will help alleviate their anxiety because they know what's happening next. Some children might find it really helpful to have this routine in a visual way. So you could get some pictures from the internet, you could draw some, or they could draw some, about what's happening in the morning. And go through with this with them regularly in a moment that you can sit together quietly. And this can be a nice moment of connection between you as well. Children might feel really sad coming into school sometimes because they might miss you. And as they're still developing their sense of independence and sense of self away from the family, they might feel like really sad to be away from you, and they might not really have the confidence yet that they can be without you. So it can be quite nice to have some moments of connection with them throughout the day. So some people find it helpful to write little notes for them in their lunchbox, some supportive notes, maybe a reminder that you're going to see them later, that they can read at lunchtime and that they can feel supported by you. Another idea that some parents have found helpful is to decide with the child a little symbol that you can draw on the child's hand, and you can talk with them about how much you care about them, support them and love them. And when they feel worried at school, they can look at that symbol and they can feel reminded of you and your love and support for them. And again, this can be a really nice connecting activity between you two. I know there's a lot of emotions sometimes in school drop-offs, and we can feel as parents really dysregulated and upset and worried ourselves. But children will feel what we're feeling. They can often absorb our feelings and mirror them back to us. So if we're feeling anxious or unconfident, that's going to heighten their anxiety as well. So in these difficult moments, do what you need to do to ground yourself. Maybe it's taking some deep breaths. Maybe it's doing a bit of movement, talking positively to yourself, just so that you can emit that calm and confidence to them that they will feel in their bodies. Providing a space for them to talk about their fears and worries can be really helpful because then they can feel understood by you. You don't have to feel pressured to solve all their problems or fix everything that they're worried about, but just listening to them and showing that you understand can be really helpful in lowering their fears. And just expressing supportive comments to them can be really helpful. So, for example, I understand this feels really difficult, but I know you can handle it. Can help them to build their emotional resilience and confidence while they're navigating, developing their sense of self in the outside world. I really hope that you try some of these strategies, and I hope that they'll be helpful to you. Thank you.
We know ourselves as adults, if you go to work and you're a little bit worried about something or something's stressing you out, it can impact on everything. How we think, what we pay attention to, how we relate to others. It can really impact on our day.
And as Sarah said, we want to speak to you today about something that we use across Sunmarke called the zones of regulation. So some of you may be familiar with it. It is a global strategy that's used. I used it in the UK. It's also been used, I worked in Abu Dhabi and also in Dubai. So we do see it everywhere. It was created in 2011, was when it was first rolled out by an occupational therapist called Leah Kuipers. She worked in clinical and education settings, and she was an autism specialist as well as an occupational therapist. And she found that not just any children that have additional needs, but also all children needed support regulating. And this is a way to give a visual aid to do that. So we found that with zones of regulation, when we're using it consistently at home and in school, it has a positive impact on children's self-regulation, their social behaviours with each other, adults, and everyone they're working with, their academic performance increases, and their teaching practices. So as teachers, when we're teaching and supporting the children, our own teaching practices are increased with the zones of regulation. We found that there is a decrease in emotional distress, their maladaptive behaviours, and any exclusionary disciplinary action. So I want to talk you through what it looks like in Sunmarke. So some of you may have seen this in the classrooms. If you have any children in year 5 and 6, they would have come home with their home learning planners, and this would have been in it. So in Key Stage 1, so we've got year 1, 2, and throughout the school, if we have any ELL learners, we use this. So in the red zone, you can see that the emotions are, angry, panicked, elated, loud, frightened. We want children to identify the emotions in the zones. We've got blue zone. This is where you can feel sad, tired, lonely. Green zone is where we really want to aim to be, but we understand that we're not going to be there all the time. This is our zone where we feel happy, focused, and calm. And then the yellow zone is an area that is really important for children to identify, because not only is it where you may feel worried, but we might have, for example here, the wiggles. We might feel anxious, we might feel excited. The yellow zone is sort of this bubbly zone that we want children to be able to identify, because there's a very fine line between, excited and anxious, and it's hard to identify. In Key Stage 2, again, we still use the same language. We have the red zone, the yellow zone, the blue zone, and the green zone. However, the language changes, and we want children to be able to have the language to identify more complex emotions. So I don't know if anyone's been to the cinema recently or seen Inside Out or Inside Out 2, but if you have, then you would have realized that this is where, the little girl in that is turning into a teenager and she has more complex feelings. So here we've got, optimistic. Children might not necessarily know that feeling is in the yellow zone. Again, apprehensive. So these are feelings that they might not know yet, but we're trying to develop that language and help them recognize them. Every day in Sunmarke, we ask the children to check in. So we ask them to identify where they're feeling. Are they in the red zone, blue zone, whatever they are? For their learning to take place, we want children to be in the green zone. But for them to be able to do that, they need to know how to self-regulate and how to move through the zones. And so a big part of what we do is helping children recognize the emotion and then recognize how to help themselves. So we do that with a strategy called name it, tame it, reframe it. So when we have a child, and it can be any age, when they're feeling, well, this is where you come in really. You need to know your child and know whether they are able to identify it themselves. If I was working with a child in EYFS or someone that may have additional needs and might be struggling to recognize that emotion, I might say to them, "Ooh, your hands are clenched. You're stamping your feet. I think you might be in the red zone." Help them recognize it. I think you might be feeling cross. Name the emotion. If you're working with an older child, encourage them to think themselves, are they in the red zone? Are they in the blue zone? Ask them those questions. We do it every day in school, and it is language that your children will be familiar with, and especially as they move through the school, we hope that they will be able to identify their feelings. So first, name the emotion. Validate the emotion. Say, I can see you are in the red zone. I can see you feel upset. I can see you feel angry. Then we want children to tame it. So teach the children to self-regulate with different techniques. This could be, I can see you are in the red zone. When I am in the red zone, I need some deep breaths. One thing we use with the children is, it's very hard for them sometimes to know to breathe in and breathe out. So we might say things like, smell the flowers, blow out the birthday candles. This is a really easy way for children to learn how to take that big, deep breath in and let it go. There are other strategies. They could try counting. They could try drinking some water, going for a walk. You can see here it says go to the regulation station, and I will show you what that looks like in our classrooms in a moment. It could be asking for a hug, some deep pressure. Some children love it if they can just have, their shoulders gently pressed. You know your children. Help them see ways that help them tame that emotion. So name it, tame it, and then we have reframe it. This can only happen when children are calm. So it could be that they were in the red zone. You can see they've named the emotion. They've recognized that they're feeling cross or angry. You have validated that emotion. You've helped them tame it. You've helped them regulate with the deep breath. They've managed to calm down. You can say, I see you've moved to the blue zone. I can see you're calm. Or you're in the green zone and you're starting to cheer up. This is when we can reframe it. This is when we want to reflect on their feelings and realize that none of these feelings are bad. And that's the most important message we want children to understand, is it is completely normal to feel these emotions and move through these emotions. And so that's where we reframe it. Just because you were in the red zone when you woke up this morning, for example, me this morning, my water heater broke and my kitchen was flooded. I was in the red zone, and that's fine. I've now moved to the green zone. Maintenance has come, it's going to get fixed. It's fine. So we want children to name it, tame it, and reframe it. And this is language that we use all the time with the children. So in our classrooms, this looks different in Key Stage 1, Key Stage 2. And our teachers have the autonomy to make it work for them. And that is what I would recommend for you. If you were going to use zones of regulation at home, which I highly recommend, then you could have calming stations, something like this. A calm down kit can be really helpful. We have these in the classroom. It's got fidget toys. It's got a sensory bottle. It's got some cards to identify how they're feeling. Something like this can be really helpful when they're in the red zone or the blue zone or even the yellow zone and they need to calm down. This can be something you can direct them to. We also have things like this. These are our working walls. So if you've been in the classrooms in Sunmarke, you would see that these are interactive displays that the children can add to. This is something we'd use in Key Stage 2, so year 4, 5, 6. And this is where we want children to start developing the language. So you can see here it's the green zone, and then they add the emotions as they learn. So as they learn that language, they start to add to it and create definitions. So we're hoping by the end of the year, these displays will be full of colour and words and definitions that the children recognise and are able to place into the zones. These we have on the tables in the classroom. We ask the children to identify their emotions all the time. And it's really helpful as a teacher to be able to walk around the classroom and see if someone's moved So on the tables, they might have a picture of their face, they might have a button, a paperclip. It depends what works for the teachers. And the children at the beginning of the year were all shown how to use these and to move it as their emotions change. It's really helpful. If someone came in after break time and they're in the blue zone, they might not feel comfortable approaching the teacher straight away. But if it's on their desk and the teacher can see that they've moved to the blue zone, that gives us an opportunity to have a conversation. Name it, tame it, and reframe it, and help them move back to the green zone so they're ready for their learning. We also have these areas. These are around the school on the year 3-4 corridor. And again, we would use it if a child is struggling in class. Maybe there has been some challenging behaviour. They've struggled to access their learning. They can go outside the classroom with the teacher and be supported to name it, tame it, and reframe it. So that's how it looks in our school. And then Sarah is going to talk to you a little bit more about how we develop that in EYFS.
So in EYFS, we introduce emotional regulation through a story called Colour Monsters. This will be read in the class with the children by the teacher, and then we'll revisit it again over FS1 and FS2. But it's a really lovely story, and the children respond really well to it. It's about a monster that's got loads of different feelings, and it's about him separating them into jars and labelling them. When they come in FS1, often they know angry, they know happy, they know sad, but that's kind of it. Their emotional vocabulary is quite small. At that early stage, it's just about identifying the feeling. As Lee said, how does anger look? How does your body feel when you're angry? And over time, they get much better at this. They also start to see feelings in their friends, which is lovely because they then start to develop that empathy, and that can really, really improve their relationships with their friends. It's lovely because it lends itself really nicely into the zones as well. So by the time they get to primary, they're quite familiar with red, green, blue, and yellow. So we would start off quite simple, like sad, happy, angry, nervous or excited. And then as time goes on, as they get to FS2, we would try and develop that emotional vocabulary. Once they're comfortable with identifying their feelings, we can then look at strategies. Obviously, by the time they get to primary, we're hoping that they'll self-regulate, I guess, and use those strategies themselves. But when they're only little, it's important that we can give them those tools. And whether it's blowing out the candles on the cake or encouraging them to take a walk with us or going to the calm corner, we have to help them with that, coach them through that. I think it's really easy sometimes, especially if we're in a rush in the morning, to dismiss crying or feeling a certain way, or we often try to rush children into problem solving. But it's just really important to validate them, name the feeling. I know you're feeling this way. Let them express it. Don't rush through it. And then we can get to a stage where we can problem solve together. So often giving them that time is really important. And if we don't do it, it tends to crop up in other ways, whether that's behavior or acting out. So just giving them that time. It's okay that you're angry. It's okay that you're sad. Before moving into the problem-solving stage can really, really help. So similar to primary, in every classroom in EYFS, you will see a little station where the children are encouraged to come in at any time of the day and show how they feel, and this can start a dialogue then between us and them. They love the colour monsters. They respond really well to it. I've seen children in a huge rage when we present the colour monsters. They're quite able to say, I feel like the red colour monster right now, and then we can start that conversation. And that's something that you can do with them as well. So you can do it at home. You can model that language. I'm feeling like this monster today. What can I do? So it's really, really powerful when they see us doing it. As teachers, we try to do it, but it's something that you can really easily do as well. They have access to, they have access to these as well throughout the day. So if there's a child that maybe doesn't want to open up about how they feel, we would give them one of these, and they just roll the bead to where they're feeling. So they haven't even got to say how they feel. But again, it just tells us, and we can start that dialogue. So yeah, let us know if you've got any questions about it at the end. We'd be happy to help.
I'm Gemma Castle. I'm the primary Senko, new to primary Senko this year, but not new to Sunmarke. I'm going to talk to you about healthy eating and how you can really, really help us as you leave your children with us for many hours of the day. Healthy eating, a healthy packed lunch is not just about food, it's about fuel for the mind. So, the food that your children are eating throughout the day has a massive impact on their attainment, but also how they can focus, how they feel about the day, whether they have enough energy to get through the day. So we really need to make sure that what they're eating, both before for their breakfast, but also during the school day, is going to fuel their minds ready for their learning. So first of all, we're just thinking about boosting energy, the whole grains, the things that are going to keep them, that are going to sustain energy, and make them alert and focused. We have to be careful that they're not eating too many heavy carbs, processed foods, because we do really notice if a child I have seen some lunches before, and it has been the leftovers from the night before, and it was a McDonald's, and the impact actually is huge, because after the child's eaten that, by the afternoon, they are not in the right place. They don't feel that they have the energy to keep going through the afternoon. And school is a long time. They're here for many hours, and we just have to keep that in mind. The food, if they're eating well-balanced foods, it's going to support their learning. It's going to help with their concentration and their memory. I think we forget how much food is, how important food is to all of us. So we just need, I get as well, in the mornings it can be very, very difficult. You're trying to get ready, you're trying to pack lunches. The children may or may not want to come to school. So there's lots of things happening, and I completely understand the stress that may cause in the mornings. But if we can be a bit more mindful as we pack lunches and involve the children in those choices, it actually leads to really good lifestyle choices as an adult, and making those better choices when they leave school, when they move into the big wide world. Schools are a wonderful place to spread some germs. Unfortunately, we do happen to get children that will spread some germs. However, if we are feeding them a healthy diet, children have got their immunity is strengthened through the food that they're eating. They're eating healthy vegetables, fruits, things that are just going to give their bodies the best fighting chance should a cold be spreading its way through the classroom, which is very unavoidable most of the time in school life, unfortunately. Also, building healthy habits. This is just what I was saying, lifelong skills. Sometimes I know that I make some bad choices with foods, and I've had to retrain my brain, and and it's going back to, okay, a small amount in moderation. But if we have those conversations with the children when they're young, that becomes a habit, and a healthy habit. And we want them to take ownership on what they're eating and why they're eating it, and how effective that's going to be to fuel their day. This is a huge one as well. Prevent afternoon crashes. A bit like what I said before, we do find, and obviously timetables and lunch times and snack times are different for every year group, and obviously we need to bear that in mind and maybe have some snacks during ECAs. They're allowed to have their snacks there, because we do find the afternoons, I think even as adults, by the afternoon, because we've got up so early, we're just feeling a bit exhausted. We need that boost. The children need that boost as well. They need something that's going to keep them going for the extra few hours in the afternoon before they get home for their dinner. So that's something that we also would like everyone to be thinking about. So all of that feeds into healthy packed lunches. Really, the best thing is to involve your child. Again, like I said, I am very aware of the stresses of the morning. So maybe in the evening, before they go to bed, they can help you, decide what they're going to have. So let them pick the vegetables. What are they going to be excited about? I know a lot of children say they don't want the vegetables, and I understand the stress of that as well. But it could be a bit of a chat with them. Right, you can have this one, but let's try this one as well, and expose them to some other vegetables and fruit. And at the same time, you are the parent, and you are making those healthy choices for them to start with, but it's hopefully to lead on to them making the choices for themselves and really putting those habits, ingrain those healthy habits. Offer healthy options. So, it's giving them 2 or 3 choices. Then they don't feel like they're forced to eat it. You've had that discussion, then you could say, well, you chose it. I gave you 3 options in the morning and you chose that one. So you had that autonomy there. You were able to make that decision. So giving it back over to them to make those decisions. Make it fun. I mean, I love the messages in lunch boxes as well. That's a lovely idea. It's the children usually, last year in my class, were like, look what my mum sent me. And then we'd all read it. We'd go, oh, that's lovely. And it really, that has a good thing. But also making it fun. Again, time is difficult, but just little things in there that you know that they're just going to think of you and be really happy, like, oh yeah, I'm going to eat this, and mum or dad's going to be really happy. Then can you also packing things together, like I say, the night before to make it less stressful in the morning if possible. I saw this really, it depends how organised you are, but somebody they've put in the fridge 5 different boxes in the fridge, and in each one it had some vegetables in a pack, some snacks that they could choose from, so there was a few options in each one, a juice, so a different juice that they could pick, then it was different options of the carbs that we'll look at in a minute, but there was a choice of a sandwich or something else, and then one other final thing, I can't remember. And every day the adult wasn't involved. The child knew that they had to pick one from each section, and the parent was allowed to step back, but they knew that whatever they were picking was the adult's choice, but the children didn't think that. Bit manipulative there, but it works, so, and I just felt that was, if you can be organised on your Sunday, depending on what's going on the weekend, that would be a really good way to give that choice over to them, so that then they feel that they're making those really healthy choices. Again, that kind of links to maybe creating a bit of a weekly menu, again, depending on time. And also, please remember, no nuts. Some people also forget that chocolate spread often has nuts in it, so we have to, and I've seen a few of the, they're my favourite, but I can't remember there's some few chocolate bars that have ended up, and I'm like, ooh, not here, but I'll have it. No, I won't. So just here, just really thinking about all the different options within the lunchbox. These were the things that were in the fridge, actually. So there was they made up some chicken or eggs. So for this part here, the starchy foods, this is going to keep children going for longer. Some healthy snacks. So we've got some rice cakes and breadsticks there. The vegetables, the children in these packets, they were able to pick just a little sandwich bag. Some fruits. Then you've got your dairy there. And if you want non-dairy protein as well, depending on your diet and what you follow within your family. So, and a clue here, how much. Often we see huge lunch, and I get that parents want to make sure that their child has got lots of food to keep them going through the long day, but sometimes the bowl of pasta is this big, and by the afternoon, they are falling asleep. And the teacher's like, come on, let's go. So it's just be mindful of the portion sizes, because I think that's really important as well. Even as someone that's like, maybe my portion sizes are a bit big and I need to reframe that. But I think my biggest message here is we're looking at how we can support the children going forward into life. So it's not just about how this works here and how it is in class, in school, but we want to get those healthy habits for the future. We're looking at their whole life. So if we can ingrain those really good, positive habits and feelings with food now, then we're setting them up for a great start when they get into adulthood. Yes. Is cereals? Yes. Well, so long as there's no nuts in the like. It's the chocolate cocoa things. Oh, they're a puff thing, aren't they? Mm-hmm.
There are many children who have very varied allergies, even fruit and things like that. And children do naturally compare their lunches. So if somebody is coming in with lots of sugar and lots of processed foods, that can lead to other children feeling a little bit left out, or to arguments at home then for the parents. So we would ask you to try to be as mindful as possible. It's like as adults, I have my salad / soup during the week, and then I do whatever I want at the weekends. And as Gemma said, it's a bit like a life skill. As healthy as possible. A little bit of chocolate is fine, but not big cake bars and just purely sugar-based food. So it might be possible to maybe have and start to put a little bit of plain cereal into that, minimal in the beginning, and then start to increase that eventually. But yeah, thanks for checking.
Again, obviously, different families. The last thing I'm going to say as well is, if you have a nanny or someone that is packing the lunch for your children, this is what I have noticed when I've been on duty. A lot of children are coming up to me saying, I don't like this, my nanny put this in, or I didn't ask for this. And then obviously we are very stuck because we don't have extra food. We could obviously take the child to the canteens to make sure that they're eating and they've eaten something. That's not the problem there. But if that's every day, the child's not had that ownership over what they're eating, they're not looking forward to what they're having. So if you do have a nanny or someone that is packing those things for the children, please just have that conversation as well to say, look, I want my child to choose their lunch out of these options, just so that then it's the same messages coming from all the adults that are with your children. Thank you. Oh, another one. That most children bring in these, they're really good and they work. The only thing that we struggle with is So I've seen that a lot of the children come in and it's like a packed lunch box like this, but in one of them there is just a round with the thermos. Yeah, and the food that whenever we're trying to. Absolutely, yeah. And also, it's quite hard we have to try and get it because it's warm still. The suction's there, so it's definitely still warm. But they work really well, and it actually just, keeps everything really fresh. Thank you.
So that is on a study that was carried out to average the screen times. Now, what they should be having, which is the recommended screen time, is no screen time from the age of 0 to 2. And then from 2 to 4 years, less than an hour. 5 to 8 years, again, less than an hour. 9 to 12, 1 hour. And then 13 plus is a maximum of 2 hours a day or 3 hours as a treat at the weekend. Now, I know that I come into the 13 plus category and I definitely top that always. And I'm sure most of us and our children will do as well. But it's just to be mindful, this is the safe recommended time that children should be looking at screens of any kind. So one of the things that we can improve is making sure that children do not have devices at the dinner table. Now, that's not just at home. That's if you're going out to eat at a restaurant. And this is for a number of reasons. So the first thing is that it will reduce their social interaction skills. Eating and dining together is one of the only times in the day that families actually get to sit together. And some people don't even have that. But if you're lucky enough to be able to share family meal times, it should be a no screen zone. Not just for the children, but for the adults as well. When you're actually looking at a screen and eating, your brain isn't processing what you're eating. It's not recognizing flavors. So if you worry about your children's eating habits and the lack of variety that they're trying, it's because their brain doesn't recognize what's going in their mouth as actually tasting good if they are looking at a screen when they're eating. And if you're going out to a restaurant and going out for a meal as a family, I know how difficult it is when you've got young children and you just want to have a really nice meal and you want to chat with friends. But actually, it's the time when you really need to encourage them to be engaging with other people as well. It's a really important life skill. I know that we all sit in restaurants, cafes, and you'll look around and you'll have people that are there to meet for lunch, and they'll be both on their screens and having the odd conversation in between. Those are the lifestyle habits that we're creating with our children now. So we have to make them good habits and healthy habits. And being able to sit at a table and have a conversation and care about how somebody else's day has been and what they've done and what they enjoyed is really, really important. So even if you just have 3 key things, that you discuss at the table, tell me the best part about your day today at school. Tell me what part of that meal you enjoyed most. Why did you enjoy it? Just bringing the conversation on, even if they don't want to talk to you. I know what teenagers are like. But at least try, just have 3 key things that are your focus for each mealtime. So as it says on here, phone-free during dinner makes everybody happier. I mean, obviously, when you're first implementing it, maybe not, but eventually it will do. If the expectation is there are no screens at a dining table, then that's the expectation and everybody sticks to it. It says here that family dinners have really good health benefits for children because it helps them to bond with their family, and again, it helps social interaction. There is a number of researches that have taken place that do link too much screen time to negative impacts on mental health and anxiety and depression. So these are things that we need to be very mindful of. So being able to sit at a dinner table and have a positive, happy conversation, that's going to help with reducing anxiety, and it's going to actually help children to interact in a positive way. Again, promoting children to be off-screen is going to help you as a family to bond, to know what's going on, to know what's happening in your days. And then it says also try to consider some other device-free zones. So it might be that you have half an hour playing a family game together where there's no screens, no phones, no devices, just so that you can actually interact and have face-to-face time. So one of the things that are really important is monitoring the amount of time. So I've just shown you the recommended screen time. So if you can look at that and think about it in line with your own child and their age, then see if you can actually reduce the time down. We can share the PowerPoint so you can actually have that and say, look, you're 7 years old and your school says this is how much time you should have as a way to support you. And then set screen time. So children have homework, children have other things they need to do when they get home, they need some downtime. So set them at a specific time that's screen time that is timed. So all devices have timers on them, which is, I know, not helpful if we're trying to not use devices, but if you're going to let them use it, use the recommended time frames and then have a timer that actually says when it's time to stop. And also give them at least a 5-minute warning before it stops, because they are so invested and engaged in what's going on that screen. If you to suddenly say, right, time's up, that's not going to work. So give them a 5-minute countdown, just letting you know that you've got 5 minutes left. So whichever level you're on or whoever you're talking to, just remember there's 5 minutes to go. So scheduling regular breaks. They call something the 20-20-20. So it's quite easy to remember. Every 20 minutes, make sure that they have a break from a screen, and yourselves as well. This is just as important for you and for your physical development, for your eyesight, for your brain. So it's 20-20-20. 20 minutes, have a break. Look at something that's at least 20 foot away from you and look at it for 20 seconds. So you are refocusing your eyes, your eye muscles are changing how they're working because you're looking away, and this will really improve the use of your eye muscles. So stretching it out. So make sure that when you have that 20-minute break, try and do some exercises. Try and do some physical movement as opposed to just saying, okay, it's 20 minutes, I'm going to stop for a couple of minutes. Actually get up, move about, get your body moving, get your blood flowing. Making plans for alternative activities. Do something different. Do something where you're going outside, you're going to the park once it's cooler, or you're doing something physical, and actually taking the phone is not going to benefit anybody, even yourselves. and it's just going to get in the way. So try and find alternative things to do. Let your children come up with ideas of things that you can do together. Do a treasure hunt, do something around the house. And then check in your sitting position. So that's for yourself and your children, making sure that the screen is not so far down that their neck is touching onto their chest, because this is going to affect their posture in the future. So one of the research is that the impact of screen time was affecting sleep. Now, it's not that it affects how much they sleep, but it actually affects how long it takes them to go to sleep. So if your child is looking at a screen at more than half an hour before they go to sleep, it's going to take them longer to fall asleep. So it doesn't affect the quality of their sleep. That will still be the same. But what it does is it stops them going into their deep sleep. So their brain is so active, they have to spend longer trying to switch off. Now, the recommendation is that there are no screens in a child's bedroom. And again, I appreciate how difficult that is. But the recommendation is that there are no screens in a child's bedroom. So if they're going to have some screen time in the evening, make sure that it's off, it's plugged in, it's on charge downstairs or somewhere you can see it, and then they can go to bed and they can have that time where they can switch off. This is a really good book if anybody wants some ideas for doing things a little bit differently. So moving away from screens and doing sort of interactive social things with your family. The Secrets of Happy Families. You've got lots and lots of ideas for you to just have a look at. And look at it with your child. Look at it with the family. Choose something, maybe 1 or 2 things a week, and give it a try and see if it makes an improvement. Okay, thank you.
When I call back, at that time when I grew up, there was only one TV set in the living room. So, and mostly after 9 p.m., there was not much interesting things going on. So it was easy for parents just to send the children to bed because there were only books remaining in the bedrooms. But this changed over the years. So in the 90s, you had then that in every bedroom of the children was a TV set. And then in 2012, what came was this one. So you have a screen available for you 24/7 each time. And in most bedrooms or in the whole house, there's Wi-Fi. So that is really a struggle for parents nowadays. And sometimes I'm also standing in the morning in the entrance, welcome the teenagers, and then they're greeted, and they come like this. Yeah? So instead of open eyes, they look like this on the right side. So maybe some of them, they are not really keen to wake up at 6 a.m. in the morning, but it's also a sign of being sleep deprived. Why are we taking now so much effort on sleep? And by the way, for adults, it's the cheapest therapy you can get on earth. So questions I'm being asked by parents, why is that so difficult to bring my teenager to bed? Or why are they not waking up when I bang the door or when the alarm sets on? Yeah, well, let's look first why sleep is so important. There are 2 reasons, and the first part is this part of the brain, the frontal part of the brain, that's really important for executive functioning, problem solving, your attention. So if you are not having focus, or your teenager or your child doesn't have the focus in class, then all the information is going there, but not inside here. So sleep is one of the reasons that has impact on cognitive functioning. And another one is in this area of the brain, where you have now processing of the learning. Like during sleep, all the learnings of the day, they are being filed away. So if you have any interruption in your sleep, then the learning was somehow for nothing. So that's the reason. The science behind sleep. Sleep is not just a passive thing. So we're just going to sleep and we are awake. No, it's a very dynamic process. Okay, it's a very dynamic process. We have 3 phases. One is the first phase. You go into a light sleep. Then you have the deep sleep phase, and then you have REM, and then you recycle everything again. So in the early part of sleep time, you have more deep sleep phases, and later you have REM. So what's the difference between this deep sleep and REM? REM is like, we also have that on laptops, yeah? REM? The technicians? REM. RAM, not REM. Thank you. But it's also like recalling. Even your computer files away things. So in REM sleep, this is when your eyes start to move from the right to the left. So if you open the eyes of your teenager or of your child during the night in the REM phase, you would see that the eyeballs are like moving. And in this phase is like organizing. So everything that was learned the day before is now filed into higher regions of the brain. And if you don't get into these REM sleep phases, you just smash everything in a cupboard, and there it is. It's very difficult to recollect anything in files that you have just smashed. Differently in the deep sleep phase. In the deep sleep phase, you really rejuvenate. You get something, a booster for your immune system. Some hormones like growth hormones are released during this deep sleep phase. Also, the whole rejuvenation of your body, like bone tissue is, what is it? Renewed? Renewed. Exactly. So these are the powers of your sleep. Now, there are different types of people. Different people have different preferred sleeping patterns. Some people, they like to rise up at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. in the morning. But then they have to go to sleep maybe already at 8 or at 9. These are the early morning types. Then we have the evening types. These kind of people, they can stay up to 12 at 1 a.m., but then they have to sleep up to 10 in the morning. And then we have these people in between. These are the typical people, the working people. They go to bed maybe at 10, 11, and then they wake up 6, 7. So we all have these different preferred types. You can even Google it online, what kind of type you are. Now, what is it with teenagers? There is actually a recommendation for teenagers to sleep at least 8 to 10 hours. As you can see, in middle school, only 40% are achieving that. In high school, it's even worse, only 30%. So why comes that, especially in teenage years, the teenagers really like to stay up late at night? And it's not because any other guys are doing it and screen time and whatever that contributes to it, but there is actually a change in their circadian rhythm. So it's the inner clock that pushes that they fall asleep much later in the evening. So melatonin is a hormone that's released to bring now a child or everybody to sleep. But during teenage years, this is pushed more into the evening. So an ideal time for a teenager would be to go to bed at 11 and wake up maybe at 8 or 9, and then you have this recommended 10 hours. But we're in a school, we start at 7:45 because it's a big curriculum. So it really moves against the normal flow of a teenager. So to consider that one. And some things you can do. So there is a natural tendency of the children, but we are in a world that school starts earlier. So what can you do now to help your teenager or even yourself to get a better sleep routine? You can develop like a programmed way how it goes. Maybe you have said with your teenager or even with yourself and your child a certain screen time that you say, okay, going to bed is maybe 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. And before that, half an hour before, you are winding off. So there is this call, okay, 5 minutes left of your screen time. And I heard a lot of struggles of parents, they say, yeah, but then they go to bed and then they continue. And that's a struggle because your Wi-Fi is still on. Even if you switch your Wi-Fi off, some of them, they have then mobile data and still continue. So therefore, some parents, they say, okay, all devices outside the bedroom. There are no devices inside the bedroom. And actually, that would be also good for you to switch off Wi-Fi during the night. Then no stimulation, so no like these energy drinks at night or coffee. Yeah, teenagers are rarely drinking coffee. But any stimulants that you really reduce that after 5 p.m. because it takes time to be digested by the body. Screen time, that's really something I recommend to have like a conversation, especially with your teenager, and have a kind of contract, because it's an agreement between the two of you. You listen what your teenager, really what's realistic for him or for her, and then you have your expectation as a parent, and then you come to an agreement, and then you sign a kind of contract about screen time. And then you can remind your child always, okay, we signed that. Has something changed? Do we have to adapt something? And another one is to create a nice sleep environment. So you can also, it's fancy, but more and more people, even in the business world, are picking up kinds of meditation. In other cultures, you have certain prayers, evening time prayers. That could be also something to wind down, yeah, and to come more into a slower mode. Because such a child who tames down is better than a child who is still under light with the screen, because what the screen is doing, it stops the melatonin to be released. And some people are even taking melatonin to fall asleep, yeah? And if you have additional screen time, this really reduces that your children, that you are falling asleep, even to dim more the light during the night. And the bedroom is really important to be really clean, not scattered with different things. It's also important also for you that the room temperature is quite cold, because the body needs coldness. The body regulates itself down during the night and it becomes much colder. So to have a good environment that it's cold there, that you don't have any lights, it should be really dark in the room, so no artificial lights on. And then, so you can use blenders, iPads for that, and also a good mattress. Yeah, it's very, very important. It's the sleep environment needs to be really good. And then also consider not to overschedule your child's day. They already have a really long day at school. They have to wake up, often against their natural rhythm. Then they may have sports activities. They may have tutoring. And then also social media. It's a really packed day. And therefore, really advocate, be an own role model. Yeah, because it's easy to speak with your child about better sleeping habits if you're not showing it to them. Yeah? So I thank you very much, and I give it.
Hi everyone, my name's Bea, and I am the secondary Senko here at Sunmarke. So, it's a lot. We've talked about a lot. There's lots of things as parents that you need to be mindful of, you need to be prepared for, you need to be thinking about. It's busy. It's busy for you, and it's busy for all of our children as well. So I think the biggest thing that we need to take away from this is you need to start small, and you need to focus on the things that are really important for you that maybe aren't quite working right at the moment. No one expects you to be doing all of these things perfectly. It's a massive job, and it's a lot for your children to take on as well. And I think one thing you can do to kind of ease that pressure is to establish a really consistent and clear routine. The reason that the school day is so structured and so predictable is because we try to avoid as much chaos for the children as possible. We run such a tight ship here at school to ensure that students know where they need to be, to ensure staff know where they need to be, so children know what's coming next, so children can regulate themselves, they know when they're eating, they know what lessons they've got. It's so consistent and so routined. And there's 3 reasons for that, really. So emotional stability, cognitive development, and behavioural development. So we'll just talk quickly about those 3 things. So emotional security, having a routine reduces anxiety, is fact. And that's for everyone. It's stressful for us as adults, it's stressful for the children, because everything else is so consistent and so routined. Small changes can have a huge impact, and we need to help our children manage that and cope with change, but we also need to help them preempt what's coming for the rest of the day to reduce that anxiety. So predictable routines help reduce anxiety and fear. They help children feel safe and secure. When children understand a sequence of their day, they can relax, and then the learning takes place. If your child is in a state of heightened anxiety, they're emotionally flooded. They can't talk properly, they can't hear properly, they can't see properly, and they can't think properly. So we need to reduce that anxiety, to reduce the emotional flooding, to allow them to learn and engage. Cognitive growth. So again, a routine. Your child knows they have maths next, so they're going to be in their maths zone. They're ready to learn maths. Then they have English, and they go to their English zone. It's consistent and it's predictable, and it means that they know where their thinking needs to be at. And so if you can embed this kind of routine at home as well, it helps them get in the right state of mind for whatever is coming next. You've got football tonight. Their brain is automatically thinking about football. Okay, we're going to do 20 minutes on Seneca if they're in secondary, or Doodle Maths, or whatever it is that, the online program, or you've got 15 minutes where we're going to practice your spellings. If that's routined and planned into their day, they're already getting their brain into that zone of thinking. So it actually really helps cognitive development. If I am in a lesson and then next I have a meeting, I'm kind of already prepared for what's coming next. If that changes, I panic and I'm not ready. And then I'm, okay, well, what do I need to think about now? Or if a parent turns up and they want a meeting, I want to know what they want that meeting about, so I'm prepared. But if that changes, my brain is not in that zone, and so the learning and the productability, it's not the same, it's not as productive. So, behavioural development. Obviously, routines help behaviour. We start this so early on in a child's life. They come to EYFS and it's the same routine, and we say, do you know, they're amazing. They're so well behaved, they follow the routine. It's not behaviour. They're not behaving well because they know what they're meant to be doing. They're falling into a routine. They're operantly conditioned to do what everybody else is doing. If your child does something different, it doesn't mean they're naughty. It just means they need a bit of support to follow that routine. And the routines change. They change from EYFS through to primary, through to secondary, but there is always a routine. So when we have a conversation with a parent and they say they're an absolute nightmare at home, why do you see my angel child? Is it because there's a consistent routine in school? Is it because they know what's coming next? They know what's expected of them. They know when they're going to eat. They know what the next part of the day is going to be from the moment they arrive here. And so where possible, embed those routines at home. It's really easy throughout the week. So many parents, you have your ECA schedule, your after-school schedule. That's easy or easier to plan. A weekend, it becomes a bit more inconsistent. A rain day, absolute nightmare. That was not planned for. And then the holidays, it's really challenging. So where possible, keep a consistent routine, even if it's small things like your breakfast routine or your evening meal routine that we've spoken about. It's really reassuring for a child to know what's coming next and what's expected of them. So have your mealtime routines, have your bedtime routines. All of these things that we've spoken about today involve a routine, and this is why. So how do you do it? We'll share this PowerPoint with you. So there are a few steps here, but start small and just be consistent. Nobody is expecting you to completely flip your whole daily routine at home now that you've attended Wellness Wednesday. That's not what's happening. But if you know, for example, packing the lunch is something that you're not doing together and your child is really fussy with their eating and it's becoming a problem in school, make this your new routine. No one is saying start from the beginning of your day and change everything now. Pick something that's going to be important or key to you at home. Involve your child. Again, we've spoken about it so much here. If your child is a part of this, it's not being enforced on them. They're being a part of that. They're that change maker with you. And so it becomes a bit more enjoyable and less enforced for them from any age. Visual schedules. So we have visual schedules in school. Every single classroom has a visual timetable. I'm not expecting you to create your own visual timetable and have it in the house, but it might help. It might help just on your calendar for you to have a section for your child and what's coming for them that week. Stay flexible, but stay steady. There are going to be changes. We have to support our children to adapt to change and to manage that change. But if you can preempt that change, rain day we couldn't, and it was a nightmare for so many families. But if you know there's a national holiday coming up and we're not in school on Thursday and Friday, let them know on Monday, at least, because they need that time to prepare and plan and understand that their routine is going to change. And positive reinforcement. It's tough. You guys need positive reinforcement. You're all doing amazing, but so do our children. They need to know, do you know what? I've had a great day. I've followed my routine. I might have had a bit of an incident, but it's okay. You're doing amazing. And that positive reinforcement, it goes a long way. So consistency is key. Where possible, change some small things and see if it makes a big difference, because it probably will. Okay, we do have a little quiz, but actually I think we've run over. We've run over. Shock. Okay, so thank you all so much for coming. I'm just going to pass over to Miss West, who is going to close our Wellness Wednesday.
Thank you so much, because it was really, really insightful and lots of helpful tips. So thank you. What we would really like to do is make sure that Wellness Wednesday is actually about you and about the things that you want to know more about, would like more advice with, would just like, just more information on. So it would be really great if you could get in touch with us. Just trying to think how to do that, because we haven't got a marketing team that are actually running it for us anymore. So we're going to be running it from the inclusion department. And we just want to know, is there something in particular that you would really love to hear about? So what we will do is send out a link so that you can, maybe a parent survey that you can fill in. We have them every half term, but we can do more if you want them. Some of them will be more interactive. For example, we've got a dyslexia workshop coming up in October, and that will be more interactive, and that will really help you to understand how children feel who actually have dyslexia and how being in a classroom environment really affects them. I think actually experiencing that from the other side of the table really helps us as well. So that's one of the things that are coming up. But we want it to be, really informative. We want it to be fun, engaging, and it has to come from you. So if you could please, when the survey comes out, let us know. And then we will endeavour to cover all of the areas that you've asked about. So thank you for giving up your time and coming, and have a great day.